Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is hang some fenders and doors and maybe a hood. Okay, so I got me some fenders out of the shed and started hanging them, noticing some kerfuffles here and there. This has got a big dent in it, so I'll straighten that out. I already went over the hood being cattywampus, and since I took this car, I got it with the fenders like in the trunk and whatever, so I don't know where these brackets are, but I'm going to make some better ones. The stock ones are just little sheet metal stuff, so I'm going to make a little bit more stout bracket for that. And this fender in the inside has got a lot of undercoating and junk, but took the emblems off and the headlight buckets off. Probably going to get rid of all this metal in here. It's just heavy and doesn't really do anything. So, but I also have the passenger side fender, which I don't believe is original to this car, but maybe it is. I don't know. It's white, so maybe it is. But somebody stripped it, and it's been sitting in the weather for God only knows how long. So I took my little, whatever that thing's called, and there's definitely some nice metal in there, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time, you know, making this fender shiny, so I'm just going to throw it in my bucket. My bucket of molasses. I think it'll fit into the barrel at least up to here, and I can get a bigger bucket, so I think I'm just going to let it sit there for a couple weeks, and then I won't have to sand all of this. I could just pressure wash it off. And this is a little known fact, but this is chemically lightening the material. So I'll have a 3-ounce lighter fender when I'm done. So that'll be nice. Okay, so this fender fits pretty good to the cowl right there. And see how that's nice and tight up against the A-pillar? That's what it should look like. It's a little bit gappy here, but once the window's in, and I think that's going to be somewhat acceptable. Don't get me started on the hood though, this is a mess. I think this needs to bend down actually here. We'll get that hood straightened out. Looking at the other side, the rusty fender. Look, it's shiny right there. So this one is, I don't know how well you can see that, but this is kind of sticky uppy a bit. Maybe that's better. It's a good 1/8 inch. And I think the reason for that is, if you look in here, it's hitting that little lip. So I need to tuck that under. And then that'll allow this whole thing to drop down a little bit. Okay, so you see that, but I hammered and dollied this guy. So that guy is not touching the A-pillar anymore, but if you look down in there, it is. So I'm gonna have to kind of attack that. This other fender is very different. So this lip right here is all the way up into here. So, and then this looks like what it's hitting right now. So I'll pull that fender back off, tap that down, try fitting it again. I might have to do some grinding on it, I don't know. But this is what you have to do to make stuff fit, right? Figure out what's keeping it from aligning up. And this looks like I'm gonna need this. This doesn't. Yeah. This radius and this radius don't really match up, so I'm probably gonna have to add some filler weld to that to kind of make this nice. Okay, so I got this guy fitting better. Still needs fill here, but this whole part's got to go down. So I kind of labeled everything on where it's screwed up. This all looks pretty good here. here, here, but not so much here, or here, or here. Okay, so I got this thing not aligned, but I know what's broken now. So this is where it originally was. And when I put those guys on the front, this one was a 1/2 inch longer than the other side. The other side fit pretty good. It's about 1 3/4 from there to there. And that headlight bucket fits on there pretty good. I got a little bit of, you know, up down stuff here. I got this guy marked where it goes fore aft. There's a pretty big gap in here, but I guess that's covered up with the windshield chrome or something. So since I'm putting a not windshield chrome on the front of this, I'll have to figure out how to make that work. But this is kind of close. I got this piece of shim stock in here. I'm going to make some gap and flush things to slide in there. I got one on the other side. I'll show you. But the other thing I noticed when I put that guy on is this thing doesn't curve as sharp as the other side like it's supposed to. So when you put that bezel on there, it's like down here instead of up here. So this needs to get, I think this got dented by moving it around or whatever. So this needs to get kind of manipulated down a bit. And then this had a big gap. So it needs to go way out. And I'm looking at this flange here, and this should be flat, and it's like all bulged out here. If you look at the other side, like all of this, you can see that, but this is on a plane. This is all on a flat plane right here. So I think if I hammer this in, it'll pop this out, and then it'll line up with the edge of this guy here. Okay, so here we are, another freezing cold morning, and this one fits really good to the headlight bucket. So, and the other one doesn't. So what I did is I made this little, just out of a piece of scrap metal. I just kind of bent it until, there, that fits on there real nice like. So, okay, so now that I got that fitted to this side, I know that side's good. I can come over to this side and bend the hood over here, but it is really good. So that's my idea of good, right? That fits on there nice, that fits nice and tight. So that's as good as the Ford engineers drew it up in 1967. Yeah, look at that. Ain't even fucking close. It's like 1/4 of an inch off. So I started questioning that, and that, if that's not in the right spot, that moves this entire fender forward and back. So remember, I've been saying this for 6 months. I got to get the hood aligned to the cowl. I got to get the fender aligned to the hood and the cowl, and I got to get, right. So this is the piece of the puzzle that I got to make this aligned to the hood. And it doesn't, so I assume that it was the hood that was messed up, no good. But now that I'm looking at this thing, I don't know if you can see those little pinches there and there, but this whole thing, I think, is bent. And this is made out of, you know, pot metal, like a zinc, crappy zinc pot metal stuff. So pretty unlikely I'm going to be able to bend this back into shape. Anyway, so that's gonna put the kibosh on getting these all aligned so I can get the doors on there, because until I know where this fender lives relative to the hood, I'm not gonna go much farther in this endeavor. That gives me an opportunity to throw this in the barrel though. This is, it's been in there almost a week. You see this line here, it was in there for like 3 days, and then they put it in there for, I guess, 3 more, 2.5 more, something like that. So yeah, you can see it had a little bit more time here than here. I just added a little bit more water to it. Unfortunately, my garbage can is not big enough to fit that half in there. So I'm gonna have to figure out what kind of garbage can to get. But you can see this is done a really nice job. A little rough around the edges here. Got a big old goiter there, and this looks kind of weird, kind of lumpy. This style line doesn't seem as stylized as the factory one. Okay, so these things are getting boxed up and sent back, and this one hopefully is better. Quite a bit better. So it says okay, okay, proud. That's about the same. So this side I knew was low. So this is not that different from in that box down there. This is beautiful now, whereas this was all cattywampus on the aftermarket guys. Okay, so I got all these guys machined. So on the where the bushings go on the inside here, I cut that because there's a flange on the bushing that I had to take up. So it got a little bit thinner, but not too bad. And this guy I cut on the inside here. So it got a little thinner. They started out at 3/16 and they're like 170 now, so I took like 20 thou off. Somewhere in there. So now I just got to deburr these guys and press the bushings in. And then of course the bushings are gonna get, when they're pressed in, they're gonna, the ID is, you know, a nice slip fit right now. But after I press this bushing in, it's gonna be a very tight slip fit or a press fit. So I'll have to go back through there with a reamer and kind of hand ream that out. Okay, so gotta press the bushings into the inside of these now. So that means I need to put a chamfer on there because these things have a little radius in there, so they won't sit flat. Unfortunately, you can't use a big enough countersink to fit through the hole because it won't go through the hole. So what I have to do is take this bigger countersink, it's like 3/4, slide it through there, like that there, and then, like a monkey effing a football, use this ancient old drill, which is super handy. I usually use it for like center drilling, drilling spot welds out, you know, so I don't have to keep switching. But it has a really tiny chuck on it, which is what I need right now. So it'll clear. Just barely holds on to that. I don't know if you can see that, but I got a tiny bit of clearance right there. And then I can get a chamfer on there. And let's do the other, and then I'll be able to press these together. I got the hood and the fenders on here. I don't know if you can see in there, but that right there is my hood latch. Basically, looks like this. So this one will bolt on over yonder, where the stock hood hinges goes. It'll bolt to the same surface. And then this will bolt to the underside of the hood. And the way this works is when you release it, there's a spring, like a torsion spring, on the torsion bar in the front. And when you release the latch, it kind of pops up to there. And then basically you just push on the back side of the hood, slide it forward, and then rotate it up. So this should be way, way nicer to align. Those original hinges are just not good. And then these are the basically the picker-upper things, right? The lift assist. So I stole all this stuff out of a 7 Series BMW, an E32, I think. Mid-90s, I think it was. I just wandered around pick and pull until I saw some hinges / latches that I liked, and I just removed everything. Now I can't use everything. The torsion bar thing was about, 2 feet long, and I needed to be 3.5 feet long. So, and the brackets were different and whatever, but I just grabbed all the stuff, and I'm going to use these guys. I'll just bead blast these up and clean them up. The other side has a switch on it, so it indicates whether the hood is open or closed. And then it has a latch with a little, I grabbed everything, it has a little handle, so I'll just put that over there to pop the hood open. So that's all going on in the background, and I got this hood aligned. Got this marked here. So that's where it's going to live. The reason I couldn't get this to go down is because there's a little bump inside there, and I had to just take a body hammer to it and kind of get it down in there somewhere. So this fender is now in the right spot. So what I've been wanting to do for many, many months. The body line fits nice. Is get the doors hung, right? Now I got the hood lined, I got the fenders aligned, close enough. And then now I'm gonna finish the hinges up, put the doors on, and then I can get my rear fenders in place and start welding those in there. If I get those things bolted on the car, it's gonna make it a little bit more difficult to work on the car, but put the cage in, put the rear bars in, weld the floor in, And I think I decided I'm going to remove this dashboard. I'm going to cut along this line here. And then there's a couple of spot welds in here and here. And same thing on the other side. And there's a little bolted in strut in there. So then I can pull this whole thing out, and And that'll allow me to, you know, detail it and paint it, put the notches to clear the A-pillar bars, you know. It'll just be way easier to get all that wired on the bench. I'll just set it on the bench, do all the wiring on it, and then pull it all apart and paint it and put all the dibbly stuff on there and then throw it in. So that's going to be my plan. I think it's just going to be easier to and better to be able to get access. If this is completely gone, I can get to the forward bars. I think it's going to be less work in the long run to weld it back on, and a better product, which is more of what I'm after. Trying to get these door gaps good, and I think I got this side pretty good. I've got my dimensions here, which is about what I'm shooting for. It's a little thin there, but I can do a little bit of finagling on that. I think we'll be okay. This has got both new hinges on it now. Fancy re-hinged hinges. So this side's pretty good. I measured from here to here, and it's 15¼ inches. This side I think is pretty good. Like, I had the hood on and aligned it, and so I got this mark here where the front lines up with the hood when it's, you know, in its right spots. I did the same thing with this. I got a new, well, not new, used. Lined this up with the hood and then marked where it needs to be happy, right here. And this is my problem. This giant gap here, super giant, like not even close to happy. 100 foot away, you'd notice that. So here's my challenge. It's like this here is to the A-pillar, right? It's about the same as it is on the other side. Unfortunately, this thing needs to shift forward 1/4 inch. So if I look at this, from here to here, it's 15 inches. So it needs to shift forward 1/4 inch, which is no problem, except for the fact that I don't have 1/4 inch clearance. Sorry, I got maybe 1/8 inch. Okay, so this is now really close to this other side. It's about 15 3/16 from the end of that to right there. But this gap is a little on the big side as well. It's like 240. The other side it's like 180. So I still need to push the fender forward about 50 thou, which is like, there's no room there to do that, but I trimmed that in a way that I could fold that over so it wouldn't be like a sharp edge there. So I'll pop this door off and hammer and dolly that, and then I could push it farther forward because right now I can't. Okay, so took my body saw to this little area over here, cut about 1/8 inch off of there, and then kind of rounded the corner off so it looks similar to the other side, although this is still thicker. Like, this is right up on the seam on the opposite side. So I'm not sure why they're so different, but anyway, I think this should be able to scooch forward 50 thou more, and if I have to remark that and make it a little bit bigger, I can. Just trying to get it, you know, in the right baseball field or soccer field or whatever. The right field. Maybe the center field? Thanks for watching. If you like this content and want more, subscribe, like, and share.